guess we could watch this video about the topic I don't know about. French girl. It's called French Girl Commentary's Little Secret. Apparently it has to do with pyrocynical or something. I don't know a lot about what's going on with pyro. I remember there's some allegations against him, but I don't know what for. Yeah, commentaries. This was Mr. Krabs, if I remember right. What did this come out like a week ago? Yeah, this is about right. This is the video. I haven't seen a thing. I don't know anything about the pyrocynical stuff, so let's see. Okay, we're not gonna watch the full thing. We'll probably watch like a couple of minutes.
A few years ago, there was a story regarding the French girl. It was a pseudonym given by both parties to an underage victim of grooming, with the alleged groomer being the YouTuber Pyrocynical. For years, the public consensus surrounding the story has been one of dismissal, ignorance, and even mockery. It's been plagued with threats of lawsuits and narratives to push an agenda. Because of this, it's been buried under the rug, with the public at large never understanding the real story. In this video, I will attempt to tell that story to the best of my ability, a task that, as we'll soon learn, comes with great risk. This is the story of the French girl, who became commentary's darkest secret.
Is pyrocynical guilty? Because that's what I kind of think of when I hear that title.
So, can you tell us who you are?
The French girl.
In the history of YouTube, there have been a plethora of groups that have spawned in the ever-changing landscape, but one that looms above most others is the commentary community. Emerging in 2015, this ragtag group of mainly young men made a career for themselves with a meta-analysis of YouTube and the people making content on the platform. One of the first big players in the space was Niall, otherwise known online as Pyrocynical. Prior to being a founding member of the aforementioned commentary community, Pyro and many of his friends started their YouTube careers with montage parodies, comedically over-exaggerated videos edited in a style to mock video game highlight reels. Pyro created some of the most popular videos in the community, with many of his contributions having millions upon millions of views.
I've seen a couple of his videos.
As a result, he had gained 250,000 subscribers by early 2015. But his biggest growth came later that year, when he started making more personality-driven content whilst talking over gameplay. It was in the same vein as another creator, Leafy is Here, and the change of content paid off dramatically, as only a year after, Pyro had reached the milestone of 1 million subscribers. But, as with everything, there was a downside. Pyro's humble beginnings and
that's what I watched once, his review on,
and a lot more eyes
it was a TikTok hospital
and the manifestation
thing.
Of this came from the notorious Keemstar. As most already know, Daniel Keem is the host of Drama Alert, a channel that specializes in discussing internet-related news and gossip. Much like Pyro, Keem saw the growing audience for more opinionated and drama-centric content and capitalized on the market. As the show gained traction, Drama Alert posed a serious threat to Keemstar's peers, and being targeted by him could single-handedly destroy your career. That being said, despite the internet's wariness,
Keem used to be very dominant in 2016 because that was like the year before everything changed. But that was also Keem created. A lot of people don't know this. Keemstar created drama and commentary.
Leafy,
really.
When you did your face reveal, you literally have a Vietnam flashback face.
However, these times wouldn't last, as Keem began to hear rumours involving Pyro behind the scenes, and unknown to anyone else, this would be the beginning of an incident which would turn the community on its head. Pyrocynical had become a massive YouTuber in the commentary community, but one group that was particularly bitter about his success was his former friends from montage parodies. Due to that and other reasons, 3 individuals known as Chili CSGO, Snipers and Vagabonds created a Skype group with the sole purpose of exposing Pyrocynical. This group had a lot of misinformation and inconsistent theories, but above all,
you're gonna make a whole Skype group
was dating a minor.
To bring,
they were right.
Then that's,
Pyro had recently gotten
I thought that was because of jealousy.
And began dating a French Twitter artist named Lou. Pyro was 18, 2 months away from 2019.
Now that clip sounds really bad.
And as for Lou, Pyro states she was 15, but she testifies that she was 14 years old. As evident from Pyro's own admission in an old
How old was
post,
Pyro?
this
Isn't
was a
15 still
relationship
bad?
where
It's
the
not
two of
legal.
them dated.
18's
It did
legal.
not get sexual, but as
How
seen
old was
from the
Pyro?
DMs, Pyro admits that he was completely willing to wait for her to turn 16 so they could have sexual interactions. 16,
What?
for those of you unaware, is the age of consent in the UK, where Pyro lives. The two dated for approximately 2 weeks until the relationship was interrupted by
Bro,
the
that's
prodding of
grooming,
the Skype
right? That's at
members,
least
and they
grooming
broke up.
so far.
Soon after, one of Lou's friends logged into her accounts, recorded the DMs of the breakup, and sent it over to the Skype group, who then contacted Keemstar. On March 22nd, 2016, Keem first messaged Pyro about the allegations. It actually
I see I've
didn't
been
go
contacted
public
with
for over
info of you
3
dating a
weeks.
15-year-old
At the time,
French
Keem was
girl.
on good terms with Pyro, so when Pyro told him that it wasn't true, he didn't run the story.
I hit up Pyro in the DMs. I'm like, is this true? He says it's not true. He gives me some stuff. All right, and I don't run the story.
This all changed on April 9th, when Pyro uploaded the video criticizing Keem's channel, titled The Keemstar and Tobuscus Rant. In this video, Pyro makes some light criticism of the way Keemstar had handled the Toby Turner allegations, stating that he was worried about allegations being taken at face value, because of how easily audiences could be swayed.
So recently, as some of you may know, Keemstar has uploaded a video onto his channel talking about a rape allegation with Tobuscus. Keemstar has every right to show it on the Drama Alert show. There's no kind of law he's breaking or any kind of breach of privacy. It's totally within his right for him to be able to make this video. And he himself in the video does remain extremely neutral. He never gives any kind of leaning towards maybe he did these things or maybe he didn't. You know,
Oh, yeah, it's
respect him for
allegations,
actually
I guess.
maintaining neutral for the entire video. But honestly, in my opinion, what I think Keem should have done in that video is gave some kind of disclaimer that these are allegations and you shouldn't be going and flaming on Toby's channel.
This upload made Keemstar furious for a number of reasons. As publicly disclosed, Keem's defense for this was that he did in fact clarify they were allegations. Because of this, he disregarded Pyro's video and instead took it as a personal attack with an ulterior motive.
That dude is a fake piece of shit. Learn it. You're a fake piece of shit, and if you fucking swing at me, I'm gonna swing much harder back. Come at me, I'm gonna fucking smack you.
And considering how close this video was in proximity to Keem's DM to Pyro about the French girl, Keem assumed that this was Pyro trying to be ahead of the allegations before they dropped. So he published his
That makes
suspicions
sense.
early, infamously threatening to release his files on top of files.
Oh, and Pyro, do you remember those YouTubers that you used to be friends with before you blew up and like fucked them off? You know how they've been contacting me saying that you've been dating some like 14-year-old French girl and shit? Just please swing at me. If you're gonna swing at me, dude. Let me know, because I got a fucking files on top of files to swing back at.
Now, immediately, the first thing that comes to mind, and one of Pyro's main defenses in his video, My Experience with Keemstar, was that Keem was glaringly
Well, he made a whole
inconsistent
expose
with
video
French
on him?
girl's age.
Now, if any of you didn't notice that, he just deliberately lowered the age. Now, originally, this alleged girl was 15, and now Keemstar has lowered the age to 14, probably to make it sound even more impacting and incriminating. And guess what?
You're
Later
still
on
like,
stream,
bro, you're
he
still
lowered the age
waiting for
again
her
say
to
the
turn
girl
to the
was
legal
now
age.
13, and on top of that, basically insinuating that I was a paedophile. So this man has lied about the age
Paedophile.
of this girl on 2 separate occasions, and knowing Keemstar,
I swear to
this
God,
girl
dude,
will
I
probably
cannot
be an
stand
embryo
fake British
by next week.
accents.
So surely his inconsistencies would mean she was fake, right? Well, that would be a reasonable conclusion if Pyro didn't admit that all the conversations had actually occurred. 2 days after Pyro's video, Keem would tweet out a DM where Pyro is discussing a relationship and saying he was fine waiting for the French girl to reach the age of consent. Pyro then posted a response on Reddit where he confirms the conversation was real, even noting that he'd contacted the French girl to ask if she'd leak the screenshot, and provided additional screenshots of their conversations. Now in this post, Pyro admits he thought she was 15, but in a 2020 interview, Lou came back to the public to say that she was actually 14 when it all happened. Lou's testimony of her age can also be backed up by vagabonds, who said the same all the way back in 2016. Again, you can decide for yourself on who's lying and who's telling the truth, but I tend to lean towards Lou's story, because if you look at Pyro's Reddit post, he exhibits the behaviour of a liar. You have to understand, the first position he staked was that it was entirely baseless,
This story is total bullshit.
and now in this Reddit post, he was confirming that the conversation was real and they had a relationship. He starts off by saying that Keem is trying to insinuate there was a sexual relationship going on. Pyro then goes on to emphasize that they were not dating, and over the next paragraph basically says that what he really meant when he said relationship was him supporting her because of tough times. This is a lie, and I know that because more excerpts of the conversation exist. You can see right here, the French girl is arguing about why Pyro dumped her,
Wait, let me see
with
these.
discussions on if he broke things off because he didn't want to be seen as a pedo. They are
Okay, we got here. Pyro says, okay, you have no proof. I left you for the fame. What are you on about? What? You literally message me nearly daily. Now talk about how I left you for subs, like the generic argument ever with no points. Didn't you read? Everyone pulls the you left for fame talk. I didn't leave you because I didn't want to get seen as a pedo. Why do you spell it like that? Pedo. Like it's like P and then D. Okay, whatever. I don't say for fame. You just didn't forcefully want to be seen as a pedo. I don't know what imply means, lol. I'm not saying Mick shouldn't trust you. I'm just saying what you done to me, like telling Notify and Copa. I don't know who those people are. I left you for fame. So I guess those are his former friends. I don't like how you used me to get infos from Notify. That seems to be running theme here, which isn't true. Now I meant you left to keep your channel safe because you didn't want to be seen as a pedo, not because you have 600k subs, lol. And I understand you wouldn't like to be seen that way. No one would want to. And don't worry, I regret what I did.
literally talking about breaking up, and if Pyro's role was just to be supportive, then you'd think he would maybe intervene and be like, hey, sorry, no, we weren't dating at all in the first place. It is a blatant contradiction and a bold-faced lie. Another excerpt from Pyro's Reddit post reads as follows. When Keem DM'd me and asked if I was dating a 15-year-old, I denied it, because we never were in a sexual relationship. I really don't see how simply communicating with someone of the opposite gender can instantly jump to something sexual. Notice the careful wording here. Whilst Pyro denies that they
You
have
still
a sexual
said, like,
relationship,
I'll wait
he
for you to be
specifies
legal
sexual,
age.
even though that was not even a part of Keem's original DM in late March. Pyro basically boils down a complex situation to a few sentences in his favour, and yet this Reddit post, littered with lies, was largely ignored. It was quickly overshadowed by Grade and Leafy's videos on Keemstar, and the French girl was viewed as a claim that was entirely fabricated by Keem. Even her existence entirely was viewed as a product of this lie, with many proclaiming that she simply wasn't real, becoming a meme in the community.
She ain't no 15-year-old French girl.
As an example, here's a tweet from Notify that says, "You didn't really talk about your 15-year-old ex-girlfriend in the video." Here are some replies from the time that say, "Didn't he clearly say it was made up in the video? The one that doesn't exist? Why should he have to? It's obvious Keem made it up, considering how much he changed the age." But, without a doubt, the French girl was real, and the evidence found suggests that Pyrocynical had a short romantic relationship with a 14/15-year-old whilst 18. On top of that, he seriously downplayed and lied about the nature of it on 2 separate occasions. With all this being added to our notes, we started researching further and tried to find out more about Lou and Pyro's interactions. But in doing so, we stumbled upon something unexpected. You see, up until now, the French girl story as we knew it was part of the fight between Pyrocynical and Keemstar. But when we started looking deeper, what we found was that the French girl had become the victim of another YouTuber inside the commentary community. And it was a horrific story that none of the public know about. So to find out where it all began, we have to go back to that fabled Skype group. The first person we mentioned in the Skype group chat was Chili CSGO, a prominent commentary orbiter and Twitch streamer. But what were his motives behind trying to expose Pyrocynical in the first
have a
place?
Keemstar saying blocks
his words from a statement in late 2020, Chili and Pyro were at each other's throats during 2016, and Chili wanted to completely destroy his career, so he joined the group chat. However, this same statement also has Chili seemingly admitting to fabricating the French girl story and faking evidence or taking it out of context, which isn't really true when Pyro literally admitted to the conversations being real anyways. Still, you might be thinking that he's telling the truth, and I understand that, but please take into consideration that this man is followed by Pyrocynical, has made an appearance on Pyro's Twitch stream since the statement, and has Pyrocynical in his Twitch featured box. In Chili's statement, he also mentions that one of the people in the group had sex with an underage person while they were over 18, and that certain person happens to be Vagabond. Once a montage parody creator who came up with Pyrocynical, Vagabond had gotten into a dispute with him over something related to copyright, which he'd been messaging other commentary YouTubers about. Since the group chat, he's also gone on to rebrand to a meme compilation channel called Meme Corp, with over 1 million subscribers. He's also an active Twitch streamer with almost 40,000 followers, and as mentioned before, he allegedly had sex with a minor whilst he was an adult. Specifically, he was 19 and the minor was 15. So, how do I know the ages? And how do I know that Chili's talking about Vagabonds? Well, even though he detailed this heinous allegation in 2020,
yeah, I remember seeing like a Augie RFC video on this,
so
but I never watched it.
Well, it was none other
At the time I didn't really know who Pyro was.
On a further part of that Reddit post. I originally came across a Skype group by one of the members being contacted by
I just got into commentary too at the time.
and this was seen by one of their ex-girlfriends and was then passed on to me. Later, I was sent information of this individual allegedly meeting up with a girl who was 15 at the time and having sex with her when he was 19. I confronted him about this and said how even though I have information he allegedly had sex with a minor, I won't make it public even though he's actively participating in a Skype group spewing misinformation about me. On top of that, I have his ex telling me that she has medical proof she was sexually active in January 2015, which was the time the two were in a relationship together. This individual then told everyone in the Skype group to stop making false accusations against me, and sent a screenshot of him saying this in the chat as proof, and from my knowledge the group became inactive. But how do we know this anonymous person is Vagabond? Well, with the medical records in Pyro's Reddit post lost to time, some individuals became curious as to how substantiated these allegations were. So we got into contact with a source, and we were directed to Vagabond's girlfriend at the time. She turned out to still be very active on Twitter, and upon reaching out, the now adult immediately confirmed that she was in a sexual relationship with the then 19-year-old Vagabond when she was 15. She agreed to speak more with us, only requesting to remain anonymous. On top of this, I want to make it clear the following are her claims, not my own, and Vagabond did not respond to our request for comment. In our chat, Vagabond's ex confirmed that she had, in fact, spoken to Pyro during the controversy and sent him an abundance of screenshots to corroborate her claims. That includes more of the conversation that Nowled referenced in his video about Keemstar 5 years ago.
But in case you don't believe me, I have a DM conversation between one of the individual's ex-girlfriends who's shown that he actually has no idea what he's talking about and he's literally just making stuff up to spite me.
When looking closer, these conversations took place on April 10th, 2016. A lot of people know about this. Pyro did the same thing I did with you, except she was 14. I called him out on it, but those guys have shotgun ammo on me right back. Apparently they never actually met though, so you sure that information is reliable? Because you could be ruining him in a lie. I don't actually know, but yeah, I don't want to get involved with that anymore. While she was unable to provide us with the medical records referenced all those years back, she did claim that on her computer were multiple pictures of her and Vagabonds lying in bed together nude while she was underage. To be clear, I'm not making any direct accusations against Vagabonds, just merely sharing what was told to me, accompanied by screenshots. Either way, what we do know is that a big YouTuber allegedly had sex with a 15-year-old, and Pyrocynical had supposed medical proof of it, yet chose to keep them anonymous. Well, there's one last person in the group chat. That was Snipers, another YouTuber who Pyro had come up with making videos, even crediting and referencing him in his old montage parodies. In September 2016, Snipers would make a tweet saying that he thought Pyro wasn't a pedophile, and he had never thought he was, which of course raises the question of why he was in the group chat in the first place if he never thought Pyro was a pedophile. Well, when a Reddit comment replying to Pyrocynical's deleted post speculated that it was him, Snipers responded, which seemed to explain his own motive. I wasn't part of the witch hunt on Pyro. I stupidly told Keem about this guy I won't name who's 22, and clearly taking advantage of the same girl.
Sorry.
I have no interest in trying to drag Pyro down, and don't bear a grudge for some argument we had like a year ago. I was concerned about the safety of the girl being preyed on by a 22-year-old, which I stupidly mentioned in the same group chat, where two others were talking to Keem about a different matter involving her. But wait, Vagabond was 19, so what's going on here? Who is this new anonymous 22-year-old? Hey, what about that Keemstar interview with the French girl in 2020, where he brushes over someone else she mentions? And hold on, let's pull up those screenshots of Pyro's conversation with Lou. Who's this person in the DMs who Pyro's referring to? Who is Mick? Up until this point, we've been investigating the surface level pieces of the evidence in the case, involving the most well-known players in this insane group of associates. But as we kept digging, we soon realised that the public knowledge hadn't even scratched the surface. To explain what I mean, we'll first have to take a closer look at a major clue that everyone who covered this case back in the day had missed. In the first leaked screenshot between Pyro and the French girl, Pyro mentioned her entering a relationship with a person named Mick. And if you read the full chain of tweets from Snipers where he states he never believed Pyro to be a pedo, right afterwards he says that he wasn't sure if Ancient Reality was still with the girl. While many of you won't recognise the name, Ancient Reality was a fairly popular creator back in the day. He was considered the greatest montage parody artist of them all, even receiving recognition for it on the community subreddit. The gifted video editor pushed the genre in new directions with his high production value and fast-paced style, and these achievements were significant enough to even receive news coverage. Take this article by The Daily Dot, which introduces him as Mick Gerards, a Dutch filmmaker who'd become one of the most familiar names in the genre. Even if you're unaware of his personal channel, which had 250,000 subscribers and tens of millions of views at its peak, you've likely seen his work for Filthy Frank, including the intro to Pimp My Wheelchair and an entire music video for Pink Guy. And on top of that, he's worked with MTV. And before either had become internet famous, Mick and Pyro had been in the same friend group, and thus remained close as established creators. Up until this point, everything's been focused on the French girl's relationship with Pyro, as that's what we, along with the public, were aware of. Upon discussing this with Lou, she revealed that shortly after breaking up with Niall, she not only stayed in the community, but began a relationship with Ancient Reality. How did your relationship with Mick begin?
As in dating or like talking?
When did you start talking to him? Yeah.
Same years, honestly, so also 2015 since he was in that group and I was interacting with all of them and I guess we just kind of became friends, like same with everyone in this group because of fan arts.
And the allegations levied against the aforementioned Mick are far more serious than anything she claimed about Pyro. And can you confirm your age at that point when you were talking to him?
Well, still 14 because it's 2015.
And how old was he?
23?
Okay, so he was in his 20s. Did you have a physically intimate sexual relationship with him?
I wish I didn't, but yeah.
What was the age gap when the sexual relationship began?
9 years.
Mick would upload his last ever video to the Ancient Reality channel in 2016, and 2 years later, he would disappear from the internet entirely. Since June the 21st, 2018, many have been asking the question of where he's been. Everyone from his fans to other high-profile creators begged for him to return, but received no response.
I guess maybe
while there was never
possible.
an answer as to why he left, the French girl may have an explanation. But to be clear, this is based on what we were told in our conversations with her, along with both evidence she provided and publicly available materials. Just like with Vagabonds, we were not able to obtain a statement from Mick on these allegations. Also, just to be upfront and get this out of the way, Lou has already filed a police report against Mick before we even attempted to contact her. So all of the information about to be discussed has already been submitted to the proper authorities. As Lou's recollection of events goes, dating commenced between Mick and her shortly after breaking up with Pyro in early 2016 following the public fallout, and lasted for an entire year, ending in February of 2017. What countries did this take place in?
The very first time I was in France, where it was in my house.
What other countries did you have a sexually intimate relationship with him?
His house, so Netherlands.
Bear in mind that the age of consent in the Netherlands where Mick lives is 16, and in addition to this, Lou alleges that Mick was both emotionally and physically abusive towards her. But of course, the question is raised if there's any proof to back up her claims. Well, in spite of efforts to destroy it, some evidence that the relationship occurred, that it was abusive, and that it met in real life all still exists. But trying to piece it together led us down yet another rabbit hole. As we attempted to form a better understanding of this former YouTuber's life, we discovered their story had gone deeper than anyone could have imagined. When digging through the archives, the earliest proof of the relationship between Mick and the French girl can be found in February of 2016, when they started interacting with each other publicly in now deleted tweets. These earliest conversations were around the time was when Pyro and Keemstar originally began their feud behind the scenes, and word spread amongst their friend group. This lines up, as shortly thereafter, Mick uploaded the video titled YouTubeDrama.exe, a tongue-in-cheek satirization of Keem and the drama community surrounding him. It ends with a message by Ancient Reality pleading for everyone to just get along. At this point, he appears he knew the French girl was a minor, as Pyro admits to talking with Mick about her in the leaked screenshots. Some people, like I know, will be asking, why didn't anyone's parents get involved? So can you explain how neither your or Mick's parents didn't have any problems with this?
So, first of all, they didn't know. My parents first thought that he was just gonna be a friend, which my mom asked me later on to clear out if he was more than a friend and all that. But, AR, so Ancient, basically, before we met each other's families, he set up this thing about my age and his that would be basically lying, which he wanted me to lie about his age to my parents. Instead of 23, he told me to say that he was 19.
So I could trust
So
him.
4 years difference. And to his family, he said that
yeah,
I was
that's-
16 when I was 14.
Understood. So, I guess another thing, we're trying to, cover our bases for any inconsistencies someone might want to, point out in the story. Some people might question your account being deleted and the lack of pictures with you and him together. Can you explain why that's the case?
Well, first of all, pictures of me and him is pretty easy that I hate photos, and so did he. So basically, there was nothing, really. So that's, the easiest point. Then the account. Since he didn't want
I can believe that. Most people I know that are around my
age,
age, like 14, 15, hate photos.
Basically, I had a bit of a following from all this art, and I was kind of not very known, but I was a sort of known fan artist in the community, and he did not want anything to be public at all. He was actually scared, and I know he told me that. And when he told me to delete my account completely, he was actually in my house, so he was over, and he told me that he wanted me to basically stop speaking to anyone and never mention it, and so he made me delete my account. And
To cover it up, basically.
Well, wasn't allowed to ever recover it.
As Lou just mentioned, all of the tweets of the two interacting publicly were deleted. Lou explains this by recounting one of their visits, where allegedly Mick stood behind her as he forced her to delete her social media accounts one by one. As her account goes, he then, for good measure, deleted all mentions of her from his Twitter. Lou states the two met numerous times over the course of the relationship. Their method of transportation was by train, which aligns with an old Reddit comment we found from Mick, which corroborates that this was in fact a form of transportation he regularly used. On top of this, she saved one of her train tickets, dated August
What the
30th,
heck?
2016.
That was my
and held
computer,
them
that wasn't
to
YouTube or anything.
Freiburg.
What the heck
The latter
just
city
happened?
shown on the ticket is situated on Germany's border with France, and was the easiest spot for her mother to pick her up. As she would tell us, Mick's parents often weren't home when
My
she
bad,
visited,
guys. Jesus,
leaving
I
her
don't know what the
largely
heck just happened.
unsupervised in an unfamiliar country. She alleges that they'd had sex numerous times during these meetings, something he would often pressure her into doing. She recalls many of these ending with her in tears, and him ignoring her reaction. These experiences were too harrowing for her to recount during our interview, so we later asked if she could explain other details about their sexual relationship.
Basically AR.
Yeah, that's a little weird. You can't recount
But he
it.
was very insistent
She's legal now?
on
Like,
me
what, like
trying to
18? I
get
feel
a
like
prescription to start taking
years
the
later,
pill,
you still
so he
probably would be
don't
able
use
to
any protection
recount
anymore.
it.
Once.
Whether you're
and
mentally or physically
when I
unhealthy,
turned
especially if
15,
it's like an interview like
and
this.
then
That's a little
he
weird.
acted shocked, like he didn't know, in front of my family or whatever, which my mom made fun of. And we went on a walk, and he just started saying something that really brought a red flag to me. He was like, "Oh, it's okay anyway. I already got used to fuck a 14-year-old." And I was like, "Whoa, whoa."
What?
Got really just, I don't know. That was very shocking.
But as she tells it, they not only continued to meet after this ordeal, but would soon take a trip together. Later that month, Mick took her to visit Amsterdam's notorious red light district, a tourist attraction known for its abundance of brothels and sex shops. The two spent the entire day there, visiting places like its sex museum, and later a sex shop which she had taken photos inside. She told us this occurred around Christmas, which is reflected by the store's decorations, and recalled feeling so uncomfortable inside the store that she left to wait for him outside. Can you tell us about your trip with him to Amsterdam?
It's pretty danging evidence there.
I was going to the Netherlands for a few days, maybe 3 or 4.
Bro, I love the little
And
Kyle scam.
basically, we visited a few cities because it's not a very big country, so we could go off by train. And so after visiting 2 or 3 cities for some days, the last stop was Amsterdam. Well, when you go out of the train station, it's just like a big street, and obviously since I like traveling, and even though I was underage, well, for me the traveling part is not that bad, but first of all, he brought me to this it's like sex museum or whatever, and after this thing, whatever it was, I wasn't really looking, I was just following him or whatever, just looking at everyone. It was a bit confusing. I don't think I really realized where I was.
Sorry.
And later on we went to, I guess what you would say, the main part of Amsterdam. I was only really there because, well, I personally liked how it looked and all these things, but he brought me to the red light district thing, where all these, well, women are, you know, behind the glasses and etc. And he's also brought me to a sex shop that was near a McDonald's or something, but we didn't buy anything, of course, and the owner looked at me really weirdly. I think she suspected that I really wasn't, like, mature enough to be in there.
Alongside this picture and testimony that Lou had given, we would later find evidence to support her story. When we inspected Insurreality's last upload, You Wouldn't Steal a Meme. When investigating the contents of the video, we realised that approximately a minute in, a store called Old Sailor is shown. Upon googling the location, we discovered it to be a pub located in none other than Amsterdam's red light district. Evidence that the relationship was emotionally abusive exists in the text messages she sent to friends at the time, telling them that Mick would harm himself as a means of control and threaten his own life if she left him. This can be corroborated with his public behaviour, as Mick was openly suicidal on Twitter, resulting in multiple scares that caused his online friends to publicly call for a wellness check. On one occasion, Pyro can be seen pleading for someone to check on Mick after he had not responded to them in days. This outburst occurred on December 13th, 2016. That same day, the French girl had texted a friend that Mick had just threatened to cut so deep that she'd see his bones. And only 3 months before that happened, more messages between Lou and her friend give an insight into truly how abusive this relationship was. I had a friend over and I ignored for a sec Mick. Then he went crazy over it, insulting me, and then he just said, "You know what, fuck you, I'm going to end my life tonight, goodbye." Since then, he hasn't answered, and I had to message his mom about all of this, which I know Mick is going to hate me for. She said she'll go upstairs, but I don't know what will happen or what's going on right now. I've legit cut so deep on my arm without even thinking, and I've just been crying. Don't harm yourself, please just calm down. Just pray. I don't pray, and think that he's okay. He isn't. I know he isn't. You know, I'm confused too when Mick says I make him happy, but then he self-harms sometimes. But I know he loves me and he regrets it. He was already mad because he missed his train, but yeah, he became violent. Now if he quits, it'll be my fault. I know he won't cut too deep because he tried once and couldn't bear the pain, unless he fights the pain and does it. He still has a scar from months ago. He says he regrets it and never wanted to start again.
I get you want the monetization, but still, you have to censor like every cuss word. You can cuss on YouTube.
Following this specific threat, Lou had contacted Mick's mother, and the DMs can be seen here. And for those wondering, the conversation is in English because Lou didn't speak Dutch fluently and Mick's mother didn't speak French fluently. Lou initiated the conversation by saying, "Hello, it's me. Is Mick doing okay? I didn't get any news since yesterday night and I'm really worried." Mick's mother responded that she didn't notice anything strange about his behaviour. She knows that he'd had his birthday party that Saturday, so
Maybe
he
he's just trying to get
wasn't
eyes
early
on, I
out
don't
of
know.
bed that
I find it
Sunday.
weird when he
She then notes he was
censors it.
quiet before going to
Well, you
work,
can cuss in
but didn't
videos,
think
dude.
much of it. Lou then explains that she was asking because they'd had a fight prior,
And still
and he
get
stopped
like
responding.
in the
At a
algorithm
later
and
date,
get
the
your
two
videos
corresponded
seen.
again,
It's
stating,
really a
"Hello,
big deal
excuse me,
anymore.
could you go check on Mick?
As long as you're
We
not
had a
saying
fight
every
and
other word
I
is a
just don't
cuss
want
word.
anything bad to happen. I know he probably doesn't want me to say it, but please go check on him. He's literally told me he would end his life tonight. I'm so sorry for telling this, but I have to, because I really don't want anyone to lose him. No one does. I don't know what to do, I'm so sorry. I'm going upstairs. Alright. I'm so sorry this is happening, I don't know what to do. He probably hates me now." The conversation continued a few days later, with Lou saying, "Hello, excuse me again. Do you mind not telling Mick I sent this? He'll get mad, but he threatened to kill himself again and said I can't do anything about it. Honestly, I'm lost. What do I do? I obviously will be sad without him, but I don't know anymore. I feel trapped. I can't tell my mom either. I don't know if I should leave him or no. Obviously if I do I'll be sad, but I don't think it's good to stay, is it? I just hope he gets help. Waiting for her opinion. So as this relationship went on, you were clearly very young and he was a lot older than you. Was there any abuse or manipulation that took place revolving around, suicidal tendencies?
So when I started being with him, he was very open about his depression and mental illnesses. Basically, he was if I said something that he didn't like, if I did something that he didn't like, he was gonna either give me the silent treatment or start saying really bad stuff, like he's gonna and blame me for it. He's gonna do very bad.
Well, at least at the initials, I could see what he said. She said
or whatever, or he would just say one thing, oh, I'm gonna kill myself, and just never speak for hours, and I'd have to message his mom on my phone because I was very concerned and I didn't really want to have someone's death on me at all. At a young age, I was gonna say, but not at all, any ages. And he was very threatening about and
Okay, and did he use any manipulation tactics so you wouldn't break up with him?
I would consider that a manipulation tactic.
He told me 2 times at least that if I ever left, he would
suicide baiting.
So what did you do in response to that?
Well, sadly, I didn't break up because I was terrified. I mean, when you're young, you really don't want anything to happen. Once, I know I messaged his mom multiple times about him, saying, I told him, I told her that he wanted to end it, basically, and if she could check up on him, so go to his room, and she told me she was gonna go up and that it would be his choice if he ever decided to do it.
So his mother was indifferent to the idea of her son killing himself?
I don't think she wouldn't care, but I think she had the mindset of you can't really stop someone who's feeling very unwell.
Beyond what was described in the text messages, she further alleged that Mick once threatened to commit suicide directly in front of her, only stopping when she was sobbing on the floor, begging for him to stop. He also allegedly encouraged her to begin self-harming, gifting her blades, and suggesting she cut herself with them. She says there were multiple arguments that became so emotional that it did lead her to self-harm. She even provided us with conversations with friends from that time containing images of the wounds. We will not be showing them here for obvious reasons. Stepping back a little bit, did he introduce you to self-harm?
Well, he actually gave me one of his razor blades, and I know that I've used it. I was feeling very unwell as well because of everything that I was going through, and I know that every time something bad would happen, I would have to fight to not do it, but there was a time where I was gonna leave at school to another country, and just the day before, I had done it with what he gave me, and it was absolutely because of this relationship, so yeah, I guess I've done it.
As Lou made clear to us, Mick was thorough in covering his tracks. One part of this was his refusal to take photos with her during their visits, making it difficult for her to prove definitively if and when they were together. She was able to send us a photo of her in his bedroom, though to be fair this proved inconclusive as there were no identifying features in the background. More damning though are the photos alleged to be of him in her bed. One of them in particular shows multiple identifying details in the background, namely a window and 3 shelves next to it. We asked her for photos of her room to compare to make sure everything lined up, and sure enough, the shelves, window, and distance between them were exactly the same. Even with that though, because the man's face is obscured, for the sake of objectivity, we can't 100% confirm it was him. The last message she sent to Ancient Reality's mother was dated February the 14th, 2017. On the same day, she wrote to another friend that she was giving Mick a second chance, but if anything happened, it was goodbye. Just over a week later, Mick would once again visit the French girl in her hometown. This date can be corroborated by a photo he allegedly took of her during the visit. As she tells it, this would be their last meeting, as it ended in a breakup. So, after multiple attempts of manipulation, what was the last straw that kind of broke your relationship with you and Mick?
I think that there wasn't anything he did that was like the very last thing. I think it was myself. I just realized everything that happened was wrong. I was talking with friends on how I mentioned, and I realized how unhappy I was, how unhealthy everything was. And I once told him, I'm gonna break up, right? And he was feeling very sad, but for once he didn't threaten me. He was very, very, well, somewhat sad or whatever. I know that I was in at like lunch table, and I was thinking I might give him a second chance, but in my mind I was like, why would I do this, right? Like, why would I ever give him a second chance? And I know I told him, you've got a second chance, but a few days later I actually just completely left because I realized how fucked up it was that he got me even thinking about giving him one, like, second one.
Meanwhile, despite never uploading again, Mick remained active on Twitter for the next 2 years, before disappearing in June of 2018. He was never seen by her or the public ever again, with no activity recorded on any of his Ancient Reality accounts. Lou's claims painted a vivid and disgusting portrait of an abusive, horrific freak who was ingrained in the
pretty good evidence too
Still, there were plenty
to back
of
it
other
up.
people to question about their knowledge.
More evidence
of
than
the
we've seen
allegations
from
at the
most
time.
allegations against YouTubers.
As the years went on, the montage parody community fell into obscurity, eventually becoming nothing more than a footnote of internet history. While some adapted their content to survive in the current online landscape, such as Pyrocynical, others, including Ancient Reality, along with the mystery surrounding him, were forgotten to time. Immediately upon digging into the case, new questions began to linger. Namely, why did Mick leave the internet when he did? His last tweet was a year after when Lou said they broke up, so that's clearly not what caused it. Also, how close had Mick been to his former YouTube friends, and did they know about what he had done? We attempted to answer these questions by reaching out to a number of his former associates in early January, and most either didn't respond or made it clear they wanted nothing to do with us. We did hear back from a few who wanted to either remain anonymous or speak off the record, and they had quite a few stories to share. From these chats, it's clear that Ancient Reality was viewed as talented, but fairly strange. Multiple pointed specifically to an incident in 2015 where he pleasured himself onto a Minion toy and uploaded it for the world.
What the heck? He prompted a video he'd posted to Pornhub of him combing into a Minion, and what the heck? Wasn't enough to confirm the rumor about him, but it was inappropriate as heck.
To see. It appeared there were no copies of it still available online, but we were able to recover an image proving that it did in fact exist. Those who had the misfortune of laying eyes upon the upload recalled his manhood making an appearance. Mick proudly promoted this video throughout social media, which one ex-associate recalled thinking was quite odd. Others told us they thought he was a homosexual because of how prevalent phallic adult toys were in his videos. At first, they viewed him as joke props, but when he began showing off his new purchases on Snapchat, they started to interpret it differently. I guess, did he buy a lot of sex toys at Amsterdam? Was that a thing he bought for you?
Oh no, not for me. He bought something for him, but that used to be a joke, and then he actually used it, but whatever.
Alright, well, I won't get into the details of that.
You don't want to know something I know.
Fair enough. Whilst this is all second-hand information, we were also able to find tweets discussing how he enjoys sodomy. The sincerity of these remain ambiguous. When he stopped online activity in 2018, many former friends just assumed he'd moved on to the next chapter of his life. It wouldn't be the first time a person had quit internet fame. He hadn't uploaded in years anyways, so as he faded from the community, they thought nothing of it. There is one extremely popular creator that we talked to that had a more in-depth and long-standing friendship with Ancient Reality. Henceforth, we will refer to him as Anonymous. He explained that, in regards to Mick, they were definitely more friendly than some acquaintances, but didn't have many personal interactions and rarely talked at length. He did remember the French girl and noticed that sometime in 2016, she seemingly vanished from their group. In early 2017, she finally reappeared to tell Anonymous that she and Mick had been in a relationship. He recalled Lou wanted to break things off, but she feared Mick would kill himself. and then discovered how much of an age gap there was between the two. A few months later, Anonymous confronted Ancient Reality about the relationship, to which he recalled Mick stating that she was a liar. Furthermore, he claimed that they only had a friendly meeting to somehow cope with his suicidal tendencies. As bizarre as this explanation seemed to us, Anonymous swears that he believed it at the time, rationalizing that because her parents were aware of the meeting, nothing inappropriate could have occurred. However, as Lou explained to us, all parents involved were lied to. Despite the claims of serious wrongdoing, Anonymous stayed on good terms with Mick, remaining unaware of the relationship's true nature until recently. Even though Anonymous was helpful, the person that we were most interested in talking to about our investigation was Pyrocynical. So, Niall Pyrocynical knew that you were in a relationship with Mick and he knew the age difference?
Well, yeah.
Did he try to, help and contact anyone?
I don't think so.
Okay, so did he try to, help you in any way?
No, I think he might have just wanted to completely, not get related to anything of this.
Alright, so he knew it was going on, but he didn't want to get involved.
Yeah, but like I said, he definitely didn't know what was going on, awfully, in the back.
So he didn't know about the cell phone stuff?
No, he didn't know about it.
If you recall, the breakup messages prove that Pyro was one of the only people who was aware of the relationship to some extent, as he recalls talking about the French girl to Mick. And as Lou said, it's very likely Pyro knew the age difference of this fucked up relationship, something he would continue to never speak out about. That being said, there are still many uncertainties regarding his knowledge of the events that followed. Specifically, if he'd ever thought they'd broken up, or how close he and Mick were.
I'm turn my mic real quick, guys. Turn on my fan. It's gonna make a lot of noise, so I just want to turn on my mic real quick.
Several times, first by ourselves, and then through the aforementioned Anonymous. He refused to answer questions involving any of these troubling allegations. That being said, as we continue to push, we eventually received a statement from him that read as follows. It might be helpful to mention that when I found out the extent of what happened, I did confront Mick in December about what he allegedly did to her. He totally denied it, saying it was nothing more than a friendly meeting. The parents were around, so nothing sexual could have happened anyways. He then removed me a few weeks later. Whilst we continued to do research into these creators' knowledge of the Ancient Reality rumours, our investigation eventually had to take a backseat as some strange occurrences turned the story on its head. As word began to spread around that Keemstar was looking into the French girl allegations in 2020, along with us reaching out to Ancient Reality's former associates, it appeared that this investigation was progressing in a typical fashion. That was until evidence began to disappear. Conveniently, only a few days after Keem began hinting at a French girl interview, Ancient Reality would break 3 years of inactivity on his YouTube account to remove over 1 million views worth of videos on his channel. He also deleted a tweet showing off his tattoo that same day. On January the 14th, 2021, all of these social media accounts associated with Ancient Reality were deleted. Only the YouTube channel remained. This included his Twitter, Twitch, SoundCloud, Facebook fan page,
this guy,
and even a Reddit profile, which indicated the comments had been
I wouldn't even say allegedly at this point.
Interestingly enough, he also privately a video criticizing Drama Alert from half a decade ago. Years of inactivity was interrupted just as people started to talk about the French girl story again, even though not a single person in the public had brought up his name in their discussions. Lucky for us, almost all of the evidence he'd attempted to delete, we'd already archived.
Yeah, he's trying to cover it up.
Videos. If this activity wasn't strange enough, only 2 days after the Ancient Reality mass deletion, we received a message from Lou stating that someone had attempted to hack into her email and successfully compromised her current Twitter account. Immediately, we jumped into a voice call with her and helped submit a support ticket, and thankfully her accounts were returned, as the behaviour was quickly recognised as suspicious. With control regained, Lou was now able to look through the access history of her account. As it turns out, the first recorded attempt to hack in was on December the 19th, 2020, linked to someone using a Tor-based VPN. This was the day after Keemstar first announced he'd be reinvestigating the French girl allegations. She didn't notice it at the time, but this person would attempt to break into that email nearly every day for the next month. To access her account, the intruder spoofed their location to appear as if they were in France, then attempted to change the recovery address to a temporary email service. No new tweets were published when the account was compromised, and upon regaining control, she found no messages had been sent either. In fact, the only recorded activity in the entire account was that the person had visited Keemstar's profile, likely to check their message history.
So you didn't go to Keemstar's page last week. They hacked the account. Yeah. They went to Keemstar. Can you go to his page, I guess? they were looking for DMs from Keemstar.
Which is completely empty because I deleted them anyway.
It's unknown who got into her account, and because of how it was done, we may never know the truth. As mentioned
Nah, that's
before,
pretty
they had a
sus.
Tor-based
I would
VPN,
say
which
he
doesn't
did.
keep logs of its customers
I
to
don't
increase
know,
security.
yeah.
And the temporary
Yeah,
email
no.
service deletes its inbox 2 days after registration.
Probably why you
In
quit the
addition
internet
to
pretty
suspicious
much.
timing of events, Lou's
Too
email
scared that
wasn't
something will
public.
slip up
the
against
culprits
him.
needed to know both who she
He'll
was
get too big.
and
He'll
her
get too big like
personal information
EDP.
within the day of renewed
Which where
interest for them to
this
pull
when
this
this
off.
stuff actually
The
comes
person
out,
was
it's not
also
going to be a
dedicated
big
enough
deal.
to attempt over and over to gain access for an entire month. The same day that this hacker was finally able to get into her Twitter account, another 1.4 million views worth of videos was privated on the Ancient Reality channel. Finally, as we were starting to work and word started getting out, an associate of mine received a text on his phone from Twitter with an authentication code, making it clear that someone was trying to break in. When checking his account to see if he could glean any information about this attempted hacking, in the logs he could see that it had been carried out by someone identified as being from the Netherlands, which coincidentally is also where Ancient Reality is located. We have kept
What an idiot, dude. What an idiot. How do you get caught this badly? Like, bro.
track of all suspicious activity to provide to the proper authorities. 2 days after the French girl was hacked, we resumed our efforts in speaking to ex-associates of Mick. One of these was former MLG YouTuber Cyrenek. Not expecting much, he was contacted as almost a kind of shot in the dark. After a bit of small talk, we asked if he remembered anything strange or memorable about Ancient Reality. He started by mentioning points we already knew, such as his work with Filthy Frank or the Minion incident, but then the former associate offhandedly referenced something that really caught us off guard. As stated before, we believe Mick's last public activity had occurred 2 years ago in June of 2018. Well, in speaking with Cyrenek, he let it slip that Mick had made another channel with a fair amount of success, but that the new account's Twitter page now appeared to be deleted. Becoming frustrated with Cyrenek's lack of cooperation, we asked our anonymous source if he was aware of the account. While having vague recollections of its existence, he didn't remember the name, only recalling that it consisted primarily of 4chan memes, such as Pepe the Frog and Wojak. With this limited information, we began going through all of Cyrenek's subscriptions to find channels involving Pepe memes that also had deleted Twitter accounts. After sifting through hundreds of pages, we were left in shock when we found the account that matched our criteria. To make sure our eyes weren't fooling us, we sent the channel to Anonymous to confirm it was Mick's secret project, to which he immediately confirmed that it was the channel in question. It appeared that Ancient Reality had not left YouTube as most thought, but instead started running an even bigger account, as he was now the infamous Prince of Zimbabwe. To those unaware...
Oh, so he still tried to get some money. He still tried to, like, how many stuff? Okay, never mind. It's not really a lot. But he still... Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, no one really leaves the internet officially. They'll always come back.
This controversial meme account had a noticeable impact on internet culture, popularizing animated Wojak cartoons, with each video being seen millions of times across the web. On top of this, he was still taking commission work, including the creation of animations for the documentary That Feeling When No Girlfriend, a film about incel culture. Still wanting to confirm without a doubt that Mick and the Prince of Zimbabwe were the same person, we began searching for anything related to the deleted Twitter account. We quickly stumbled upon an archive link, dated February 14th, 2019, showing the Prince of Zimbabwe tweeting out an image of their computer setup. Sifting through old Ancient Reality videos, we found a scene showcasing Mick in his room. We began to compare both workstations, and from a first glance they do look similar, as they share details of the table and window in the back. But that's hardly enough to conclude it's the same location. We next noticed that Mick uses a League of Legends SteelSeries black logo mouse. And guess what? The same mouse appears in Prince of Zimbabwe's photo. Whilst the trio of monitors we can see in Zimbabwe's photo shows that the 3 lower screens match up with Mick's, the 4th was no longer there. Well, with some brightening in Photoshop, we can more clearly make out in the Prince of Zimbabwe's photo that there's a stand for where the 4th monitor went. So, with that settled, what has Mick been up to under this new persona? Well, we've constructed a pretty clear timeline of events. 3 months after Ancient Reality's last activity on Twitter, the Prince of Zimbabwe channel is created on September the 12th, 2018. Its first video is uploaded that same day. 1 month later, on October 5th, the Twitter account is created. From then on, the channel uploaded highly edited Wojak memes at an inconsistent schedule, before one is taken down for hate speech. This causes him to announce on Twitter that he is quitting the channel for the foreseeable future. Following that tweet, no more content was uploaded. As you might recall, Cyrenek stated that the Prince of Zimbabwe had deleted his Twitter. What we didn't didn't realise until later is that he deleted it only a few hours before our conversation. The same goes for all of the social media associated with the Prince of Zimbabwe, excluding the YouTube account. Going back to our main timeline, on January the 14th, 2021, we found out that all Ancient Reality accounts except for his YouTube channel were deleted, though there was now an old video privated criticising Keemstar. What's interesting is that another upload was removed on the Prince of Zimbabwe channel at the same time, also about online drama, titled YouTube Millionaires Scam Fans to Make Even More Money. 3 days after that, another video about YouTube drama was removed from the Prince of Zimbabwe, this time with Keem even making an appearance. Around the same time, someone also submitted an anonymous tip, saying that Mick ran another alternate channel by the name of Tender Tomato. This channel, with over 200,000 subscribers, primarily made content focused on Among Us. However, it started out posting these same Pepe and Wojak memes that Mick had been posting on the Prince of Zimbabwe channel. Whilst it might seem confusing at first as to why Mick would even migrate to another account just to post the same things, you've got to remember that Prince of Zimbabwe was so influential and impactful on the YouTube scene that it started being listed in reports of alt-right YouTube channels. So it makes sense why Mick would move if this was him, just a way to kind of get rid of that stigma, and possibly you thought it was causing his community guideline strikes. Tender Tomato also posted its last video in December 2020, around the same time Keemstar was investigating the French girl situation. And whilst the Pepe profile picture, the editing style, and the level of production all align with that of Mick's other projects, this can ultimately only be chalked down as speculation. On January the 18th, 2021, Mick would private 2 more videos, which was the last activity so far on the Ancient Reality channel. The first was the previously mentioned You Wouldn't Steal a Meme, where we found proof of his visits to Amsterdam's red light district. The second one was titled For Those Who Have an Opinion, which we assume was put on private because it prominently features his face. This scorched earth approach basically meant we had no way to reach out to Mick for comment in relation to anything covered in this video. We did find a Steam account in which he changed his name to some Chinese symbols, and we assume he probably doesn't want to delete the account as there's probably a lot of video games purchased through the platform. We sent a friend request, but so far it's been ignored. After this traumatic experience, how has this affected you? How has, life been after this?
For me?
Yes.
Awful. I mean, I've legit went to a mental hospital because I ended up having severe anxiety disorders, and, well, I've had to tell this story about to 10 people, or even more, honestly, let's say 20 people, for a few weeks, and I couldn't live for a few years because my anxiety was so bad I could barely breathe every day. So it was very, very bad, and it took me a while to get healthier mentally and physically as well.
It's sad to think that the dark side of Ancient Reality could have been aired out so much earlier, because when we talked to the victims, they were incredibly helpful, immediately telling us their stories. Yet it was those who created a lie and made a girl into a punchline who later refused to answer questions on what they knew and when they knew it. However, regardless of any preconceived bias that you had upon sight in this video, I hope it's clear by this point that the abuse suffered by these victims transcend any of the petty internet beefs that underlie them. We started out with Pyro implying the French girl didn't exist, and ended up pulling a thread that led us to unravel the dark underbelly of the commentary community. The evidence provided strongly suggested that Ancient Reality was one of the most disgusting, deplorable, and abusive people this platform has ever housed. And the fact he was able to move away from this and still have a positive reputation, get another channel, it's fucking disgusting. And it feels incredibly disappointing to know that members of the commentary community shut our investigation off. As seen from the deleting of videos and the possible attempts to hack, Ancient Reality is still possibly an active and dangerous individual, and it seems like he will go to any lengths to stop the releasing of information about his actions. This means that this video will put me on his radar, and if something does happen to me or this channel, then thank you all for the support. I'm grateful to have had a platform where I could talk about these kind of things in the first place. Finally, I want to give a huge thanks to Bernie and everyone else who helped in the investigation. I wasn't actually involved until recently, and I've just been telling the story from his perspective for the sake of simplicity, but regardless, his work, the work of everyone else towards the situation has just been unparalleled. Do you have any final thoughts and advice just based on your experience with the online community?
Honestly, just live your life outside of the internet. Just enjoy it. Don't
Yeah, guys,
idolize
don't
people
be
who
terminally
really
online,
don't know
basically, unless
anything.
unless you're gaining like
And
monetary value
be
or
very,
something.
very careful, because that could actually affect your lives for a few years if something happens. And these people know how to hide, so yeah, just being careful is what you should be.
Until next time, stay safe and stay toasty.
That's interesting. I think I wouldn't even call these allegations or anything. This guy's probably gonna get away with it. I mean, it's something that we can do, right? Like he's probably hiding up all the way in the Netherlands at this point. And I'd say I did a pretty biased. I started off biased, like you guys heard me. I basically just said I didn't know anything about this Pyro situation. I thought it was gonna be more about Pyro than the ancient guy, but yeah, that's the whole situation is just wow. Especially the deleting stuff and going back, like just mysteriously coming back from being online to delete stuff right as Keemstar's covering the French girl. Like, yeah, I don't know. That whole situation is insane to me, honestly.